The deepest wounds are inflicted by those you trust without question. This is a story about that trust, about that friendship, and about a betrayal that burned a man's world to the ground. But sometimes, from those very ashes, a spark emerges with the power to seek justice and burn everything down in its wake. This is a story of two friends, one who sold his soul, and the other who risked everything to reclaim his. My name is Leo, and until a few years ago, only two things mattered in my world: my passion, which was coding, and my best friend, Julian. We weren't just friends, we were brothers. We grew up with a shared dream, to build something in the world of technology that would change the game. After college, we pooled all our savings and courage to start a company, Innovatech. Our office was a small garage, our desks were old, and our chairs were broken, but our eyes were full of ambition. I would spend hours writing code, developing new algorithms, while Julian handled the business side. He was a master at talking to people, he had a charisma that could charm anyone. I was the brains of the company, and he was its face. The first 2 years were tough. We worked day and night. We failed many times, but we never left each other's side. And then, our hard work paid off. We created a piece of software that was a revolution in data security. Suddenly, big companies started noticing us. We got our first major round of funding, and our garage transformed into a lavish office. Money and fame started pouring in. I was still the same person, immersed in my computer, in love with my work. But Julian began to change. His conversations shifted from technology to profits, parties, and luxury cars. He started hanging out with clients who didn't care much for ethics. I warned him several times. Julian, we're heading in the wrong direction. We need to stick to our core principles. He would laugh and say, Leo, my friend, you're too naive. This is the world of business. Ideals don't pay the bills. You just focus on the code, leave the rest to me. I trusted him. It was the biggest mistake of my life. I had no idea what kind of game Julian was playing behind my back. He was funneling company money into shell corporations he had created. He was manipulating the accounts, inflating our profits, and funding his lavish lifestyle with company funds. He did it all so cleanly that even our accountants couldn't catch it. And then, one day, the storm hit. Our company was accused of financial fraud. An investigation began. I was shocked, I thought some outsider was trying to frame us. I told Julian, we'll get through this together. He put a hand on my shoulder and said, yeah, buddy. We will. The next day, an emergency board meeting was called. In that meeting, Julian presented a set of documents. Emails, bank statements, digital signatures, all of them were fabricated, but they looked perfectly real. And all those documents pointed to one person, me. Julian stood before the board, with fake tears in his eyes, and said, I can't believe my own friend, my brother, Leo, could do this. He betrayed all of us. He robbed the company blind. I was stunned. I couldn't speak a word. Using the very systems I had built, he had created such convincing evidence against me that no one would believe my side of the story. The man I would have taken a bullet for had just shot me in the chest. The board fired me immediately. My shares were seized. My bank accounts were frozen. Legal action was initiated against me. In a single blow, I lost my company, my reputation, my future, and my best friend. That night, as I sat in my empty apartment, I had nothing left but a broken laptop and a broken heart. Julian, now the sole owner of Innovatech, was on television, giving interviews, painting himself as the victim. I thought my story was over. But it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a new, dark, and dangerous chapter of my life. A chapter called Revenge. When your world is destroyed, you have two choices: either get buried under the rubble and die, or use those same broken pieces to rebuild yourself. For me, the first year was hell. I had no money to fight the legal battle. Friends and family had turned their backs on me because they all believed Julian's story. I was known as a criminal. I did small freelance jobs, just enough to pay rent and stay alive. I was depressed for months. Every night, I would see Julian's smiling face and hear his treacherous words. A fire of anger, hatred, and helplessness was burning inside me. I wanted to destroy him, but I had nothing. And then, one night, when I was at the lowest point of my life, a thought struck me. Julian had beaten me at my own game. He had used technology to frame me. Therefore, the revenge had to be technological. I couldn't beat him in a courtroom, but I could beat him in the world where I was the true king, the world of code. That night, a new Leo was born inside me. Someone who was no longer naive. Someone who had nothing left to lose, but an entire world to gain. My goal was no longer just revenge, it was to prove myself. I left the city. I changed my name and moved to Singapore with a new identity, a place that was becoming a new hub for technology. I invested every last penny I had into this new beginning. At first, I worked anonymously at a small IT firm, sharpening my skills and understanding new tech trends. I started keeping tabs on Julian and Innovatech. I saw that after I left, there was no new innovation happening in the company. Julian was a great salesman, but he wasn't a visionary. He was just making money by selling the old software I had built, calling it his success. I found a weakness in Innovatech. They were trying to enter a very specific field of cloud computing and artificial intelligence but lacked the right technology. And this was the very field in which I was an expert. This is where the foundation of my revenge was laid. I quit my job and started my own company, Phoenix Solutions. Like the mythical bird that is reborn from its own ashes. The name was perfect for me. The next 3 years were the hardest of my life. Working from a tiny room, I coded for 18 hours a day. I started building a software platform that was 10 times better than Innovatech's dream project. It was a revolutionary AI-based cloud management system. I kept my identity completely hidden. I contacted investors online, without revealing my true self. My work was so powerful that I received funding from an anonymous investment group. Phoenix Solutions began to grow. My new name started to get noticed in the tech world. People knew me as a mysterious genius who preferred to work from behind the scenes. And then, just as I had planned, it happened. One day, I received an email. It was from Innovatech. They wanted to partner with Phoenix Solutions. Julian, as always, wanted to build his empire on someone else's hard work. I refused. A few weeks later, another email arrived. This time, they wanted to buy my company. They made an attractive offer. My heart was pounding. The trap was set. The mouse was now heading for the cheese. I worked with my lawyers to draft the acquisition contract very carefully. I inserted certain clauses that looked standard but were, in fact, a digital time bomb. My software was designed in such a way that if it were integrated with Innovatech's existing systems, it could secretly take control of their entire network. And according to the terms of the contract, once the deal was done, it was irreversible. Julian's greed had blinded his judgment. He and his team did a surface-level review of my code, but they could never reach the depths where I had laid my trap. After long negotiations, the deal was finalized. A date and place were set for the final acquisition meeting. Julian himself was flying to Singapore to close the deal. After all these years, I was about to face the man who had ruined my life. But this time, I wasn't a defeated, broken man. I was the hunter, and my prey was walking right into my snare. The final acquisition meeting was held on the top floor of Innovatech's lavish Singapore office. The glass walls offered a panoramic view of the entire city. When I entered the room, Julian was sitting in his expensive chair, a winner's smile plastered on his face. He looked at me, at my new, changed face, and saw nothing familiar. To him, I was just another tech nerd he was buying out. He extended his hand and said, "Mr. Cole, my new name, a pleasure to meet you. You've built an excellent company." I shook his hand calmly, keeping my emotions in complete control. "The pleasure is all mine, Mr. Julian." The meeting began. Lawyers discussed the final points of the contract. Julian kept glancing at his watch, as if he was in a hurry to get this formality over with. He didn't know he was about to sign his own ruin. After about an hour, everything was settled. Julian signed the contract. I signed. The deal was done. Phoenix Solutions was now a subsidiary of Innovatech. Tens of millions of dollars were transferred to my bank account. Julian signaled for a bottle of champagne, and his celebratory mood filled the room. Raising his glass, he toasted, "To the future of Phoenix Solutions and Innovatech." Everyone clapped. I just smiled. I put my glass down and said, "Mr. Julian, before we celebrate, I'd like to show you a short presentation. A case study, if you will." He was a bit surprised but said, "Sure, why not?" I took out my laptop and connected it to the large projector in the conference room. The first slide showed the Innovatech logo. I said, "This is a story about a company built on the foundation of friendship and trust." The next slide was an old picture of me and Julian, from our garage office. Julian's face turned a little serious. I began to tell the story. I talked about how two friends had a dream, how they worked hard, and then how one friend betrayed the other. As I continued, a silence fell over the room. I mentioned the shell companies, the forged documents, and every single act of fraud. Julian's breathing grew heavy. He said nervously, What is this nonsense? Who are you?" I came to the final slide of my presentation. It read, "Checkmate, Julian." And then, I took off my glasses and looked him straight in the eye. "You used to call me naive, didn't you?" For a moment, there was confusion on his face, and then I saw that flicker of recognition in his eyes. His face went white, as if he had seen a ghost. "Leo," he stammered. "Yes, Julian. The same Leo you destroyed." Before he could say another word, I pressed a button on my phone. It was the command to activate the Trojan horse I had built. I said, "The software you just paid millions for isn't just software. It's a virus. A virus that has spent the last 10 minutes encrypting every server, every database, and every backup in your company. Innovatech's entire digital infrastructure is now under my control. All your client data, every financial record, everything, is locked." Everyone in the room, Julian's lawyers, his board members, jumped to their feet. Chaos erupted. I finished my speech. "And the money you just transferred to me? It's legally mine. As for you, all the real evidence of the fraud you committed 5 years ago is on this drive." I pulled a small flash drive from my pocket and threw it on the table. "And a copy of it has already been delivered to the inboxes of the world's largest news agencies and law enforcement." Julian collapsed to the floor. His empire, his arrogance, his future, all of it had turned to ash in under 30 minutes. An investigation followed. Julian was arrested for financial fraud, corporate espionage, and several other crimes. He received a long prison sentence. Innovatech went bankrupt and ceased to exist. And me? I used the money to start a charitable trust that helps young entrepreneurs who have been cheated out of their businesses. I grew Phoenix Solutions even bigger, but this time, on the principles of honesty and integrity. Revenge was sweet, there's no doubt about it. But the real victory wasn't in destroying Julian. The real victory was in rebuilding myself from the ashes he had left me in. I didn't just get my honor back, I got myself back. And that was more valuable than any revenge.